Get in the game with the college-branded Venmo debit card. Wreck your team with every tap and earn up to 5% cash back with Venmo Stash, a new rewards program from Venmo. No monthly fee, no minimum balance, just school pride and spending power. Get in the game and sign up for the Venmo debit card at venmo.com/collegecard. The Venmo MasterCard is issued by the Bancorp Bank N.A. Select schools available. Venmo Stash terms and exclusions apply at venmo.me/stash terms. Max $100 cash back per month.
Spring is here and the shopping list is long. Time to make a Lowe's run. Buy 3 bags, get 3 free of Stay Green 1 cubic foot garden soil. Plus, right now members can earn 4 times the points on an eligible purchase. Start spring off strong with these deals and more. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 3/25 while supplies last. Soil offer excludes Alaska and Hawaii. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. See Lowe's.com/terms for details. Subject to change. Point boosters subject to exclusions and more terms apply. One time only offer.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nerding Out on Neurodiversity, the podcast for all things neurodivergence. I'm Dr. Matt Zakreski, clinical psychologist and professional speaker, and I'm happy to be your host through the wild trails of the neurodivergent world.
And I'm Jake Noonan, educational coach and humanities teacher, your co-host and producer, and I'm thrilled to help share the stories and the experiences of wonderful people in the world of neurodiversity.
We're really excited for today's guest, which we are going to say a lot because we're always really excited about every guest we get. So let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Nerding Out on Neurodiversity. I'm your host, Dr. Matt Zakreski, clinical psychologist, published author, professional speaker, wearer of many hats. With me, as always, is the Turk to my JD, Mr. Jake Noonan. Say hi, Jake.
Hey, everybody. Love to be here. Great to be here. I'm so glad that you said Turk and JD. We are almost finished our third rewatch of Scrubs. We're on season 6 right now. Love Turk and JD.
It's I love. I mean, we are here for it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Jake, can I introduce today's guest?
100%. You know her.
I do. And it's so funny in the pre-show, Bethany was like, I'm not sure if I'm gifted. And then I rapidly listed off the 17 things that make her gifted. And she went, oh, so yeah, welcome to the club. So we have Bethany Crystal with us today. Bethany has a fantastic professional story, but I knew her way back when in Philly in 2010. So yeah, we are 15 years of knowing each other, which is crazy wild. But Bethany, tell our listeners who you are and what it is you do.
Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. I'm Bethany Crystal, and I've been working in the tech sector for the past 15 years of my career. I am a classically trained journalist turned everything else, and have worked through sales, marketing, and operations jobs in startups. Did a 5-year stint running a portfolio network for a large venture capital firm here in New York City. Have spent 4 years working fractionally, which is sort of what I refer to as having commitment phobia as a professional, where I would paratroop in and out of different companies for 6 to 9 month stints, move on to something else. And most recently, I have become a startup founder, starting an ed tech company.
Just all those things, right?
All the things.
Let's start with this sort of parachuting in thing. I mean, because, it's 2025 as we record this, what contemporary work looks like is very different than what our parents grew up with, certainly what our parents' parents grew up with. So Bethany, as a modern woman, what's it like parachuting in, doing the thing and parachuting out? Clearly you're doing it so it's working for you, but what about it works for you?
I went fractional during the pandemic, which is also the time that aligned with me having my first baby. My first baby was born April 2020. Don't worry, no trauma from that whatsoever. And what I realized was so many people were still working from home, and this idea of work from home life really normalized what was possible so that you didn't need to be in a physical space from 9 to 5 to get work done. And I've always been the kind of person that wants to do three things at once, not just one thing at once, which is why working at a venture capital firm was really the best job for me in a lot of ways, because I got to work with 100 different companies at any given time. I knew it would be really hard to find that type of thing in a normal 9 to 5 job. So fractional work became a way for me to lean into the cultural ethos of working in this sort of remote work from anywhere way, where I could pick and choose my projects, my own work cadence, and design my work around my life in a way that just made sense for me. And over the last couple of years, I've done like a lot of different types of fractional work and a lot of different industries, a lot of different roles, and I've written a lot about it, learned a lot about my own behaviors. But one of the things that is the best for me is that I can really plan around my like own productivity peaks. When I'm most productive, I don't take meetings. When I have the least energy is when I like book my time to talk to people, and just having such a finely attuned sense of where I have the most professional throughput has been an incredible unlock for me.
I mean, it's so cool because you're putting yourself in the workplace not as a passive recipient of work, but as an active driver.
Yeah.
I mean, I run my own therapy practice, right? So I'm like, oh, I can see clients at these times and not see clients at these times. But like what you just said is taking meetings when you're less productive and not taking meetings when you're more productive. I'm like, God damn.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought about organizing my day like this. And we're not going to be offended by you chose to do a podcast episode at this time because clearly you're peak productivity for you.
Yeah, my peak productivity peaked by noon. So here we go.
Yeah, right there. We're getting the afterglow, and we're here for it.
But the other thing I'll say is like I've always been a really highly creative, highly imaginative person, and I've always needed space to do that type of work. And it has always been really hard for me to work in an office where I feel like someone's peeking behind my shoulder, or I feel like someone could just like interrupt my flow at any given time. And I was always really jealous of the protectionism that like software engineers were given in workplaces where like they get the cozy private offices, but like, oh, I can handle it because I work in business and I'm allowed to be interrupted. And it would just honestly be like really triggering and hard for me to ever feel in that flow state. You can't see my office on the podcast, but I've like designed like a cozy corner of the world that is like branded to the colors that make me feel really good, that like has all these like cats and flowers and whiteboards and like all these things. And this is a spot I can come to when I like want to feel that way. And I can go and take meetings in real life or on Zoom and other places too. And having that kind of control, which was never possible before, has just been like such a game changer.
So cool. I say this all the time. Like one of the 10 books that changed my life is the book How to Be Everything by Emily Wapnick.
Ooh, I don't know that one.
Oh my, well, you're going to read it and be like, oh, she's talking about me. Because one of the things that she talks about in this book is like the idea that you don't just have to do one thing. Like, if you can't quit your job, you have to work in marketing during the day. You can do stand-up comedy at night, or you can do sales on the weekends. And like, I feel like what you're doing is taking that big chunk of the 9 to 5 and fractionalizing that to, it doesn't have to be a 9 to 5. It could be 9 to 5 different things.
Yeah.
Like as long as you have the infrastructure and the wherewithal to keep all those things separate, here you are scratching all those itches and doing a lot of different things, which I'm guessing keeps your brain more engaged and means you enjoy your work more, which means you're probably doing better at it.
Yeah. I also particularly as a parent, one thing that really bugged me as a parent is that the 9 to 5 workday perfectly aligns with the childcare hours of 9 to 5, which means if I want to do anything outside of work, I have to pay for my kids to be watched. And I'm like, that's not cool, because I should be able to take advantage of the flexibility while my kid is somewhere else. Since I work fractionally now, I sometimes try to go see like a Broadway show in the middle of the day, because otherwise, if I do a Broadway show at night, I also have to pay another $150 for like a babysitter for 4 hours. So like having that type of flexibility and like off cycle working is really great. And similarly with kids, I'm home every night at like 8 p.m. The kids go to bed. what do I do? I can have a whole other block of work from like 8 to 11 where I can sit and do some more deep focus work because of that. So being able to have that flexibility is really, really important.
That's amazing to me because like as a creative person as well, I do a bunch of different stuff like writing, music, drumming, like all over the place. And the standard 9 to 5, like sit in an office, wake up at like 8 a.m. Or earlier to get there or whatever, never really worked for me because I'm more of a night person. Like I can't do anything in the morning. I have to wait until like 11, 12 o'clock to be productive.
Yeah.
And then there's like a stint where I'm not productive, but then nighttime is like off the charts. And I'm curious for you, like what was the process for you to learn about your own motivations, your own like methods for doing those things, and then how you essentially transitioned out of the standard kind of like 9 to 5, if you will, into what you're doing now?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's like, it's honestly been like a slow burn over like 15 years, right? And if I look back on all of my jobs, it's like what's like an interesting pattern is, except for like one or two cases where I was like one of many on a sales team, basically every job I've had has been like a one of one job where not only was I the only one that had it, but like they didn't replace me when I left. And I think that's like a very like interesting observation after so many jobs. And what that says to me is like in every job I've had, I've turned it into something outside of like a standard scope. So I've had that sort of inclination of doing a lot. And each successive job that I've had, I've like sort of let go of more training wheels and more support. Working at a VC firm was way less structure and support than a traditional management structure because they don't manage people. And I felt like I had a lot more runway, but I still had like a salary and benefits and some structure. When I went fractional, it was a lot more like consulting. People sort of know what to expect in that landscape, but I didn't have anyone setting up anything for me, but I'd already built the habits of knowing what I need to do to sort of keep a cadence because I'd practiced that skill. And now I'm going into a founder mode, which is not a phrase that I like, but I guess it's a phase that I'm in. And that's even more intense, right? Because not only am I building something for myself, I'm building something for other people also. And I need to set up these habits in a really strong way so that when I start to bring other people into my orbit, those cadences continue. So like building up the habits has been decade in the making, but now I feel like really good about them. And also like my habits and patterns are so different from what your habits and patterns would be. And even my habit loops, I have like 3 different habit loops that I'm on, you know, based on like the mode that I'm in or the place that I'm at. And like those things just sort of take time to sort of clock and observe for yourself.
What are your like 3 habit modes then going off of that?
Yeah, okay. So I have like come into the office mode, which I try to do 4 days a week. I like this little office. Basically, I start every morning writing a blog post. I wake up without an alarm clock now at 5:30 a.m., which says I'm doing the right thing because I often wake up thinking about the blog post that I want to write that morning. And then I get up and I write it and I publish it by 7 a.m., which is when my kids get up. And then I take a shower and I like start the day. I come into the office. I have my first cup of coffee while I'm like going through my first email triage. My second cup of coffee after I do that first email triage, I take like a walk around the block to like get the energy out, come back in here, do another block of work, get lunch, and then have like afternoon meetings. And then either go to an event or go home. I'm actually going to an event later tonight where I'm presenting about some of my work. That's like a classic day for me, where there's like blocks, but they're, you know, flexible blocks. On like Fridays, I tend to work from home, and those are days where I'm like in deep work mode, where I have like a different loop, where I have the place I go for coffee. I need like 3 coffees a day. I have like very specific times when I get them. I have like my local coffee shop, and then I have my wine bar because I like to spend maybe like a Friday afternoon, like doing my last phase of work, like with a glass of wine at the bar. And that's like more like a stay at home, like deep work all day mode. And then the third is like if I'm traveling somewhere, I basically replicate a version of one of those loops with like, I'm going to go to like a local coffee shop, but I'm also going to explore something new. And I'm also going to try and meet someone. So I know what parts of my day I like to do different things. And for me, a big part of being creative in terms of output is also creative in terms of consumption. So since I'm building an app around like museums and culture, I've also been going to like 2 museums a week, which is crazy, and just like enjoying the city and the life, which is really fun.
I too go to museums for work. I'm going to build a brewery app, and like, yep, gotta just keep hitting
Yeah,
those microbreweries.
you do you. I'm here for it.
God, if I could code it all, it would be the best app ever.
You don't need to code anymore. That's the benefit of AI.
That you can hear my Luddite hat coming on. It's like AI. I feel icky about it, but that's an entirely separate podcast. And I know you were on the AI train well before I think basically everybody else I knew.
Oh wow.
You were like, embrace our chemical overlords. Tell me things.
I've always been the kind of person where when I tell people my goals, the response I get is, that's too much. People have been telling me this since the 6th grade when I wanted to be in band and chorus. And they're like, you can only pick one in music class. And I was like, why not both? And ended up negotiating to do like every other day, band or chorus, right? So like this has been my mindset from the beginning. And I think I spent a lot of my professional life trying to adhere to the norms that people were telling me, which is like, it's too much, do less, you're unfocused. But you can't like change your wiring, you know what I mean? So it's hard. It's like really hard to sort of like go back into that box. But AI, for the first time, is the tool that was able to help me get ahead of my own productivity and ambition for the first time. So I wasn't just starting things, I was finishing things and I was moving things forward, which is how I'm able to do like multiple jobs. I can do as much work in a day as most people do in a week. And that is so empowering. Plus, since I don't have a team or a lot of funding, I need to be creative in this constraint. So using AI in a really interesting way has been such a game changer for me.
Also, and I'm going to say this really from the bottom of my heart. How did you not think you were a gifted kid?
Okay, I'll tell you why. Because our education system told me I wasn't.
Absolutely.
I applied for the gifted program 3 separate times throughout elementary school and middle school and was consistently told my IQ was not good enough to be gifted. So I was exempted from those classes. Okay. That kind of thing really fucks with you. Sorry, I shouldn't use that word. That kind of thing really messes with you over time. Not only that, but I was barred from the National Junior Honor Society in the middle school because I created a petition that I got kids to sign who didn't agree with the way we had assigned seating in the lunchroom. And I was told that made me have low integrity and poor character. Okay. So I was exempted from these organizational education institutions that were designed to tell you who is and isn't gifted. And that is why that has, you know what I mean? It's such a problem.
But that petition is such a gifted kid thing to do.
I know that now. Thank you. But that was really traumatizing as a 13-year-old.
No, I mean, and this is the thing we talk about. Part of the reason we lead with neurodivergence as a focus on this podcast is to destigmatize it, but also stop gatekeeping it. My colleague Scott Peters does this work all the time. He's like, we should be letting more kids into these programs and letting more kids have access to this stuff because the worst case scenario is they can't keep up and then we put them back in regular education. Oh, well, best case scenario, it unlocks something in a kid, right? And Bethany, I don't know how intentional your language was there. They said your IQ wasn't good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Not that you're not smart, not that you don't have a gifted IQ, but that it wasn't good enough. Whatever arbitrary stamp.
Yeah, there was a number. There was a specific number that they were looking for, and I didn't hit the number, and that's why I didn't get in.
Yeah. And a lot of times parents will send the IQ reports to me for their kids. Like, district won't let my kid in. I'm like, well, your kid is a gifted kid based on these numbers, either because they're interpreting them very narrowly or because they've created this whole framework system. It's like, well, the IQ of 130 is one thing, but you also have 7 letters of recommendation, 2 varsity letters, at least 1 patent, and have you killed at least 1 supervillain? I mean, come on, folks, we're just trying to get things done. And like, we are just country clubbing this concept of it, which is insane to me.
Yeah. And it, not only did it happen to me in school, but it happened to me professionally too, right? Because I went into the tech industry where I was also told without numbers that the gifted people in technology are software engineers. And the only way to make a name for yourself in the software industry was to be an engineer. And since I couldn't code, I was not gifted. And since I couldn't code, I could never found a company because I didn't have technical skills. And I was always in that other class. So that's the other reason why AI is so empowering for people is it's unlocking this level of accessing programmatic thinking that's now available for people who think in words rather than computer code. And I am able to catch up on a lot of things because of this new tool.
I hope that this conversation is empowering for you, right? Like I hope that like you're realizing that you've always been on this team, right? And that there are a lot of people out there who weaponize these terms and will make an exclusive culture, not an inclusive culture, right? I mean, I think all the time about how if you had a team of brilliant software engineers, right? They could code, they could do all the things. You don't have anybody who's doing sales. You don't have anybody who's doing marketing. Nobody's doing HR. I mean, they would code, but then they would lose their Wi-Fi because no one thought to pay the electrical bill.
Yeah.
Right? Like your gifts can manifest in so many different aspects of things. And it is arrogant to think that it is a one-size-fits-all model, regardless what your industry is.
Yeah. And honestly, part of it is that's why I have had like a long time beef with educational institutions, right? Is because I think traditionally we are taught to look for a specific number, whether it's on an IQ test or on a standardized test or as a GPA, and like anchoring on a number to the exclusion of some of the other categories in there. And it wasn't until I worked in the tech sector at a venture capital firm where I realized that striving for straight A's and that perfectionistic ability my whole life was actually at the disservice of more holistic entrepreneurial thinking. And I really sort of resented the way that I was so like academically structured for so many years. And I've had to really work to undo a lot of that professionally and make it safer to fail and make it safer to publish things before I feel ready and make it safer to not be afraid to experiment. And those are things that were not obvious to me, and I probably are not obvious to a lot of people.
Which is why we're naming them right now on this podcast, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I read your blog post very regularly, and that's not a thing I can say about a lot of blogs. And one of the things I love about them is that there are sometimes mistakes.
Oh yeah.
Like there was a typo the other day, and let me tell you, you'll be hearing from my editor. It's like, but the point that you're making is so much more important than what I can't even remember what it was now because it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And you know what's crazy is when I was in college at Northwestern University, if there was a typo in my paper, I would fail. They had something called a Medill F. It was an automatic fail if you had a typo. And like that's exactly what I'm talking about. That doesn't matter. That's like such a small point in like the greater picture of it. But that's like the upbringing that I was raised in, and a lot of us are raised in. And I think it's a real problem today because we have this culture that is sort of crumbling, where leadership is very confusing, where people don't know where to look, don't know how to think for themselves. And not only that, but we've been brought up in this like rigid academic structured system where it's not safe to try things and not safe to mess up. But with all these new technologies and all these new societal problems that we're having, we need people to feel safe experimenting, and we need those people who are not already seated at the table to be trying new approaches and trying new ways. And yeah, I think it's really, really important for everyone to be trying and experimenting.
Yeah, we're not going to solve today's problems with yesterday's solutions.
No.
Not to mention whatever the problems coming down the pike are, which are going to be things we haven't even considered, except you probably have considered them because this is what you're good at. I'll learn about it from your blog. So.
Great. Happy for it.
All right, Jake, you take the next question, bud.
I have to think for a second. Okay, so a question I have for you about AI since you were covering it, knowing that you're basically doing everything yourself kind of, and that AI is like a second brain, if you will, where it's like,
yeah.
What do I need? What can I do? How can I help? Like, how does that manifest for you? What does that look like?
Yeah, this is a really great question. I am the kind of person who works in piles. So I have multiple things going on at once. And I think in paragraphs, as you can see from my prolific blogging. Okay. And this is another blocker that I've had for most of my professional life is a lot of people don't have patience for my paragraphs and they don't have the pattern recognition for my piles. So I'll start describing a thing that's a metaphor that connects to thing two because I'm really trying to make point three, but I've already lost people, right? I'm like losing people in the transitions. And that's always been really, really hard for me. So AI helps me translate my complex thoughts into more simple frameworks that are relatable to other people. And I'm not sure how much you use tools like OpenAI and ChatGPT. It is like my second brain. ChatGPT knows everything about me. There's something called memory when you use ChatGPT, and it remembers things about you over time. And it knows all about my family, all about my professional life, all about my hopes and dreams and worries. And it calls back to those while I'm using conversation. So it knows I like to think in abstract metaphors and it can help me relate to that. My favorite feature in ChatGPT as a highly verbal and linguistic thinker is to create these things they call custom GPTs. If you have a paid account, you can create your own. It's your own instance of a chat conversation, but you control how you want it to have a conversation with you. You can also control what information it has as context for that conversation. So I built myself a career coach chatbot and I trained it on my resume and my life goals, but I also trained it on the entire lyrical library of Hamilton the musical because I wanted to have a conversation with a chatbot that was asking me, are you being Alexander Hamilton today or are you being more like Aaron Burr? And for me, that's like a more engaging way to have a conversation. And I literally did like a 20-year plan with this like chatbot trained by me on me. So that's like an example for me, but an example in like the professional world is I can also make an AI bot trained on software engineering. And I want to tell a developer, hey, I want the website to look like this and not that, but I don't have the language or the vocabulary because I'm not, again, a classically trained engineer. I can talk to this chatbot using Bethany's words and say, can you rewrite this in a way that I can share it with my developer or my engineer in a way that they will understand? And it will write it back to me in a much more technically specific way. And that's the version that I share with them. So I use it as like an interpreter for a lot of different contexts. And that's what really helps me access it.
That's awesome to hear too, because like I've used ChatGPT a bit for writing, just to like think of like where certain words come from, where certain names can come from, like lists of like potential ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And it's refreshing to hear somebody using something like ChatGPT in more of like a confined space where it's not like I have an essay to write, ChatGPT write the essay for me, or I don't feel
Right.
like doing the thing, so ChatGPT go do the thing for me or think about it for me. And like you're actively engaging with it, which is making it more successful for you and for what you're trying to do. So I just think
Yeah, it takes work to get that, right? But to me it's a worthwhile investment putting the time into because I can keep coming back to it and it's so much faster than even asking a friend because that friend's going to push me off. It's going to take 3 weeks to schedule the conversation. We're going to go back and forth. But instead, I can get a good enough answer to help me keep moving really quickly.
There's so much power in good enough too, right?
Yeah, there's so much power in good enough, which is another thing as a perfectionist that's taken me a long time to recognize.
Well, that's what my second book is about. So I will send you.
Oh, is it? Okay, yeah.
Oh yeah.
If you need any case studies, I can happy to share.
I'll just shadow you for a while and just keep writing. Jesus Christ. Also, obligatory Hamilton shout out. Hi, Jason. We love you, buddy.
Oh yeah.
Of course, like the soundtrack is playing in my head right now, so I'm trying not to get too distracted by my brain yelling Hercules Mulligan at me really loud. So the thing, and we've talked about it twice now, and I actually really want to highlight this point. You took the time to train the chatbot. You sat down and thought, where do I want to be in 20 years? Bethy, there's so much intentionality in what you're doing. And I think that's what separates a lot of people who are surviving right now and keeping them from thriving. And like, frankly, my job wouldn't exist if it was just as easy as saying, just do the intentionality. So what unlocked that for you? What helped you sit down and commit the time and resources to not just treading water, but being willing to sink for a while if you realized it would help you swim better when you were ready?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is also just like a personality disposition thing, right? I think I'm like a really kinesthetic learner in the sense that like I need to be doing the thing to understand the thing. And also I have learned about myself that I am very motivated by some negative feelings like frustration, anger, feeling inferior. Like these are actually like really big learning drivers for me. So I have felt compelled to push through the hard stuff because that is how my brain is hardwired to get a drive to learn something. That's not necessarily what it will be for you, but that is what it was for me. And one of the jobs that I took which was probably the weirdest job in the sense that I felt the least qualified for it when I took it, was for about 6 months last year. I was the general manager and only non-technical hire for a 15-person software development shop. And I sort of got the job in a funny way because I used to have a general manager title at this VC firm, and this like dev shop needed a GM, and they're like, "Oh, Bethany used to be a GM," but it had absolutely nothing. It was a completely separate GM. It'd be like, "Oh, you were a GM at McDonald's, you could be the GM of a dev shop." It was like not at all related job, but I knew enough about what needed to happen that I was able to sort of talk my way into getting the job. And frankly, no one else wanted it. This was a really tough situation. The company had just gotten spun out. They didn't have anyone there. They were losing their only manager, and they had no one there to think about the business, the operations, the finances, the bookkeeping, the go-to-market, the business development. And I said, wow, I would love the chance to sink or swim in an environment where actually I don't care emotionally about whether I succeed or fail here. Like I actually really wanted a trial at bat experience in a context that I wasn't emotionally attached to. So for me, the whole thing, start to bottom, was just a learning experience. And I had to learn how to work with a technical engineering team that was all based in Europe, that was building a peer-to-peer distributed system technology that I barely understood. And I created like a lot of really interesting frameworks out of desperation of not understanding. And like what I learned was, what do I need to do to learn something in a hurry out of desperation? And now I'm able to, in like a normal, less stressful context, like apply those things in my normal life. So I don't think most people would do that. I think that's like a weird move. But for me, I was just like very intentionally observing about how it was also. I was sort of like using myself as the instrument of knowledge.
And that takes so much like self-awareness too, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your app.
Mm-hmm.
I think that as a creative person who can do many things, who gets to travel a fair amount, tell us about this app. Tell us how it fits the neurodivergent community, because it feels like it's hand in glove based on what you've told us already.
Yeah. And I'll also say the origin story of building this app is in itself like another exemplar of how I kind of pushed myself to do the thing before I was ready. I recognize that I'm really deadline driven, and I'm unfortunately very motivated to take action when it's like a high pressure situation. So I was going throughout the fall under the assumption that I was going to get this like big city job with the Department of Education that was going to start in like January. And that didn't end up manifesting the way that I thought it was going to. And even though I had applied in like September, by mid-November, I hadn't heard anything back. But I also hadn't set up my next set of fractional work projects for January, which is something I would have already started to do. And I realized in like mid-November that actually I didn't want another job. And maybe that was why I wasn't actively looking for my next set of projects, which is a terrifying and horrible realization, particularly when you have a family of 4 and you live on the Upper West Side and your daycare costs are really high. I was going through a lot of like internal pressure to come up with the thing. And this fall, it was compounded with external pressure because my husband, who's a sound designer, started working on Saturday Night Live. And Wednesday, Thursday, Fridays, and Saturdays, basically all fall, he was at the studio until 10 p.m., midnight, 2 a.m. on Saturdays. So I'm not only working these like 60-hour weeks, putting myself through this like pressure cooker, but every Saturday I'm alone with these two kids, ages 2 and 4. You know, there's a lot of noise in that house. And as someone with a very high internal running monologue, I just like really was getting ratcheted up by these kids. And I'm like, I need to get out of the house. I need to do something. I need to like slow things down and like buy myself some time. So I started taking them to museums, and museums are really great because it's a place to go. But museums can be tough because a lot of the content in museums is not tailored to like a 2 and 4-year-old, even at museums like the Met Museum of Art or the Natural History Museum. And I've been using AI so regularly at this point. I was like, oh, I'm just going to like take a picture of the art and like write a prompt to ask ChatGPT to basically tell me a story related to a 4-year-old rather than whatever's on the panel. And I just started doing this. And then what was happening was my kids would love this, like, I'm going to run around the museum and point at something and be like, tell me a story, tell me a story. So I just did this like manually all day, and it was really fun. And I thought, oh, this could be really cool as an app that I could build. And I told my friend that, and he's like, yeah, it'd be even better if you link it up to another AI audio generator and have it tell the story like via audio. So over the winter break, I had like a Friday night, and I was like, you know what, Jason, this is the night I'm going to finally just like sit down and like build an app end to end. Like, let's go. And I just opened up ChatGPT and I was like, here's what I want to build. Help me set up my developer environment. Help me set up this no code tool. Like, help me, like, tell me the code to write in to do the thing. And I want to build this in 3 hours. And like, we did it. It was crazy. And like, it was one of those things where I wasn't even thinking. I was like, just push it over, like, just get it done, just get the app live, just get them working. Okay, what's the name? How can we come up with this? Like, it has to be a name about museums, but like maybe there should be a mascot. Like, what's the most curious animal? Oh, it's a meerkat. Cool. What's like a meerkat that likes museums? Let's call it MuseKat. Awesome. And we were just like pushing through like the whole thing. I was just like not thinking. And then like Monday, or the next day was like Saturday, I brought the app to the Met Museum and we used it with the kids. We put Bluetooth headphones on, and like the 2-year-old was getting the 2-year-old version, the 4-year-old was getting the 4-year-old version, and they loved it. And then they cried when we left the museum because they wanted more stories from Miko the meerkat. And I was like, this is crazy. So that's what my app does. And it's an app for parents to enjoy museums and cultural institutions with their kids. They're customized, AI-powered learning stories, and they're audio stories. And what's interesting is I now run this app through 2 or 3 different cohorts of parents, and I'm hearing a couple of things. One, it's definitely interesting to help slow the conversation down. Like, I took my 4.5-year-old to the Whitney Museum of Art, which is more of a she museum, definitely not a kid-friendly space. It's a quiet place. You don't really want to have kids running around and screaming. She checked in at 25 art pieces and would just plop herself down with her headphones on and listen to like 45 seconds of audio content about like a Georgia O'Keeffe painting. And I was like, this is amazing. I then brought like a kid of my friends who has sensory overload and like is the kind of kid who can't even sit at a restaurant without headphones on and an iPad in front of him. But he was also enjoying the Whitney and checked in at like 15 places. I'm talking to a mom of an autistic 5.5-year-old who's like homeschooling her kid, who takes him to museums 3 times a week. And she's like, these aren't like designed for him. And he gets so overstimulated in like normal context that I need to bring headphones out anyway. So wouldn't it be nice to relate to them? And then I'm thinking about like English as a second language people, or maybe even adults with cognitive disabilities. Like, isn't there something so beautiful about bringing learning at your level wherever you're at? So that's sort of like big idea that I'm building out. But right now it's centered on museums.
Just limitless potentiality.
I know.
I appreciate this as a neurodivergent advocate, as a neurodivergent person myself, as a father. I'm like, I've been to the Whitney.
Yeah.
I would not take my children within 10 city blocks of the Whitney. However, with Bluetooth headphones and a customizable language model,
Yeah.
like my almost 7-year-old would be like, why is this painting this way? And like, I can tell you that. I'm
Yeah.
MuseKat. I'm smarter than you.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, like my version of everything you've been talking about is like trying to figure out like how to provide the service without sweat. Like, because I'm very good at sweating for my service, right? I will go to your event and I will talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
I will do that 60-hour weeks of therapy clients. Like, what are the things that I can build or give access to that don't require me to do them?
Yeah. Yeah. And particularly, I'm thinking about I was like an overloaded mom, right? Like I just like needed to buy myself some time and some space and some quiet while I also was giving my kids a learning experience. But I saw a mom at the Met a couple weekends ago who spoke Chinese, and her 7-year-old wanted to learn about the art, and she was taking pictures of all the things and translating it in Chinese so that then she could explain it to her son. But her son also spoke better English than her. He just couldn't read yet. So I was like, oh, your son should just use my app because it will like talk to him and like you'll both be able to get your own like version of this journey. So yeah, there's something really compelling about relating to people in real time on the level that matters to you.
Absolutely. It almost reminds me of like, have either of you been to the Philadelphia Zoo?
Yeah.
Like years ago when they had the little keys that you would put in the exhibits and it would tell you like a tiny bit about them. I used to love those.
Yes, I forgot about that.
It's
Yeah.
like a better new wave, more like advanced version of that
Yeah,
in
totally.
like a good way because I loved that stuff personally.
I did used to love that. That's such a good memory.
Oh my gosh, like all three of us just like Philly time traveled. We
Mm-hmm.
were all like Bethany, I think you came with us to the haunted tour of the Philly Museum that year.
Oh, was it the museum or was it the penitentiary?
We did both that year, and I know you were at the penitentiary.
Yeah, I was definitely at the penitentiary.
I think I still have fingernail marks in my arm from you.
Oh, really? Yeah, I don't like being scared.
Rest in peace, Eastern State. Rest in peace. I mean, but seriously, with that app, just like shut up and take my money.
Great. Okay, I'm happy for it.
Yeah. But it's such a great idea. And it's once again putting yourself in the driver's seat, not being a passive recipient of a museum, but customizing and individualizing the experience, not in a way that is like, I will only do this my way.
Mm-hmm.
Let's lower the barrier to engagement. Let's lower the barrier to making meaning.
Yeah.
Then you've got people who like the museum more, are more likely to come back to the museum, right? Or the national park or whatever the hell you code this into.
Yeah. Whatever. Think about all those historic buildings in Philly that like my parents used to take me to growing up. Like, how many log houses do I need to see? But like, could you make this relatable to something I care about? Like, can we talk about how I don't know, there's like a way you can add like a learning lens to make it more accessible to you. That's just real time.
Yeah, like more enjoyable too.
Definitely.
Because like each time is going to be different. Like
Mm-hmm.
you could go to the same museum like 50 times and get different stories for each piece.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I lived in Boston, I was a tour guide, and sometimes we would have tour groups come from like part of the country. They'd have to stay overnight in Boston. We would usually offer them a tour of Boston, historic city like Philly, fun to walk around. And it was always interesting to learn what made that group like, you're from Kansas. Like, what does a Kansas
Mm-hmm.
person want to know about Boston? But I was making that stuff up just on the stuff between my two ears, right?
Yeah.
Like, once again, that's the sweat. But if there's a thing I can just plug into, like, what would be interesting for people from New Mexico to learn about Philly?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can do that. I mean,
Yeah.
hot damn.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, it's potentially very compelling and big. And I'm trying to not do the thing that my brain wants to do, which is like, let's tackle everything at once. But instead, like, let's like do the thing that like really good entrepreneurs do, which is you start with like the smallest scoped version of the problem. So I'm starting with like museums because it's a place you go to learn something. It's a place you go where you check in on multiple things. And I have this idea in the app called a learning loop. So when you check in at each piece, you like acquire a learning nugget, like it's added to your portfolio over time and your profile. And at the end of your museum visit, you can end your learning loop. And what the parent gets is a summary of everything that you learned some questions to ask your kid to prompt them about how to sort of reinforce the learning, and an AI generated activity or science project to do at home based on what you brought. So I want to also just be really like finding like extension activities and like reinforcement, which is also really tough when you're just kind of generally exposed to a lot of things without any context.
I mean, it's so applicable to anybody who's in that child service education industry. I mean, whether that's teachers or coaches or, Head Start. I mean, you could use this. I mean,
oh yeah, totally.
At the risk of this turning into a commercial for your app, tell us more, Bethany. How? I mean, but it's just for all our listeners out there. I mean, there is no right way to do anything, right? And in 2020,
no,
it's like you find the way that works for you and you build the world you want, either through finding the tools that help you do that or making those damn tools.
Mm-hmm.
Tell the chatbot to code the thing for you using no code. I mean,
yeah,
come on.
Yeah.
Even I can do that, and everyone knows.
And even you can do that, right? And by the way, what I am most excited about and what I hope that some of your listeners take away from this is not only is it possible for anyone to do this, but it means that we're going to start to see apps that are conceptualized by a different type of entrepreneur and founder, right? We're going to see more of these like multifaceted apps, because right now, like the quickest and easiest way to bring an app to market was to have a technical engineering pedigree and code it yourself. But now we have this like greater range of expression, and I'm just excited to see what creativity people who hadn't considered themselves quote unquote builders before can bring to market. So I think hopefully this is really inspiring to get other folks starting to trust that. And there's like, you can get a prototype out the door in an hour by just talking to a chatbot right now.
I'm inspired.
Mm-hmm.
So go be inspired, people. Now, Bethany, we're going to start wrapping things up now with our last two questions.
Great.
I'll start us off. So, Bethany, if you could have any superhero in the world on speed dial, who would it be and why?
A superhero implies they need to have a superpower or just a mythical type person.
We have been playing fast and loose with the definition of superhero. So mythical beast, anybody special, we let you color outside the lines here.
Okay. I mean, my first answer is like, I'm just going to go with Hermione Granger because I want her time turner sometimes. I know I already talk about how much I can get done in a day, but if I had that time turner, just you wait.
Oh, God.
A good one and a good reason, honestly. Especially if you're trying to do everything like essentially kind of by yourself right now.
Yeah.
Oh, can I be Ron in this situation? Like, where did she come from? I think that would be fun.
Does that have to make me Harry?
You've got the glasses.
That's all I have for him.
Well, I don't know. Their hair was pretty long in the fourth movie, so you're most of the way there. So, all right, go ahead, Jake.
So my question for you is in a different caliber, but also just as enjoyable. What's your favorite word and why?
Oh, my favorite word is petrichor. Petrichor is the smell of the wet concrete after a really big rainstorm on a really hot day. And I love it because it's this beautiful, rejuvenating smell. And I just think it's a lovely moment to sort of think about.
I love that so much because I very rarely hear of anybody even knowing what that word means outside of like a very small handful of people.
Yeah, it's a really niche word. I wanted to start a company called the Petrichor, CORPS, like the group of people that comes together after the rain to like build something and create something together. But I was told it was a little too cerebral of a concept. So I'm just keeping that one for myself for now.
Were you told that by those software engineers?
Or by your middle school? Oh my God. I rarely don't know the word that people say, but I didn't know that word. And I love that. And also, Bethany, people always take forever coming up with their answers. You were like, it's this, let's move on. I'm like, damn.
Well, I obviously have thought about that a lot already in my own.
I'm glad we were able to ask you that.
Yeah.
Yes, seriously. Okay, so Bethany, those are our questions for you. What would you like to leave our audience with? Any words of wisdom as we wrap up the podcast?
and where they can find you.
Don't be afraid to push publish before you're ready.
We love that. It's just so much awesome stuff. I mean, Bethany, you're a delight.
Thank you for having me. This was so fun. I hope this was helpful for you and your listeners.
The best thing about how we built this podcast is it can literally be anything. Every person we've talked to has brought us something different, from people who are like deep dive pedagogical researchers to people like you who are fractional people living their best lives. But there's like everybody in this community has something to offer for the listeners of this community.
Cool.
Right. And when we get to amplify those stories and those journeys, people are going to realize that they're not alone and that there's so much other good stuff out there. Far be it from Jake and I to think we've got the market cornered on the answers. Let's bring in awesome people and have them tell their stories. So it's nice when a person that you like so much, and you know I've always liked you a great deal, that you realize just how much you respect them. And Bethany, this is just, it's amazing to see the work that you're doing. And the best thing about it is that even though it's thrilling to hear, I'm not surprised.
Oh, thank you. That's really nice of you to say.
I say this probably at least once an episode, but it's easy to say when it's true.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, thank you.
Hopefully by the time this episode publishes, Bethany will have seized control of New York City. You know?
Anticipating it.
Yeah.
Very highly anticipating it.
Mm.
She did not say no to that statement. By the way, she just went,
I am the president of the Block Association, West 75th Street. So we are getting started.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Yeah, I'm going to see you on CNN any minute now. But for all of us here at Nerding Out on Neurodiversity, including our fabulous guest, Miss Bethany Crystal, thank you so much for listening to this episode and being with us. We love learning with you. We love learning from you. I hope that you learned a lot from this episode, and we hope that you listen to us again. Take care, everyone. Nerding Out on Neurodiversity is brought to you by Dr. Matt Zakreski and the team at the Neurodiversity Collective. To learn more about the Neurodiversity Collective or to be a guest on the podcast, please visit our website at www.theneurodversitycollective.com/podcast. Audio and production by Jake Noonan. Show your support by subscribing, leaving a 5-star review, and telling your friends about us. Our Instagram and social media handles are at #NoonPodcast, NOON podcast. Your support is appreciated and keeps us going. All discussions presented on this podcast are strictly for informational purposes, awareness, and understanding. The advice presented is not and should not be considered to be therapeutic in nature. If you have any mental health questions, please contact your provider. All rights reserved.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.